My own son gave me an eviction notice over turkey. He didn't know I'd spoken to my lawyer first. My name is Ellen. I'm 64 years old, living in the United States, and this past Thanksgiving my own son tried to throw me out of my house between the mashed potatoes and the pumpkin pie. What he didn't know was that I'd already had a little chat with a lawyer. I've been a widow for 9 years. My husband Jack and I bought our small 3-bedroom ranch back in the 80s when interest rates were insane and the siding was still avocado green. We raised 2 kids there, my daughter, Kelsey, and my son, Brian. After Jack died, the house was my one constant. The mortgage was paid off. I had my routine, my garden. I worked part-time at the library and lived modestly but comfortably on my salary and Jack's pension. Brian has always been intense, smart, driven, the kind of kid who thinks rules are more like suggestions. Kelsey is the quieter, more responsible one, the one who calls to ask how I'm doing, instead of what I can do for her. When Brian married his wife, Megan, right out of college, I was hopeful. They seemed happy. They both had good jobs. He was in sales for a tech company, she was a nurse. They bought a townhouse an hour away. We saw each other on holidays and birthdays, and that was fine. Then COVID happened. The economy went weird, and things started stacking up. First, Brian lost his job in a round of layoffs. Then, Megan's hours were cut. They had 2 kids under 5, a mortgage, and more bills than savings. For months, I heard the strain in Megan's voice when she called to talk about the grandkids. Finally, last spring, they asked if they could stay with me for a bit, just until we get back on our feet. Kelsey and I talked about this. Brian said on the phone, "Your place has more room, and it would be good for the kids to be near their grandmother. We can help around the house, pay some utilities, win-win." It sounded reasonable. I didn't want my grandkids couch surfing, so I said yes with conditions. "You can stay in the 2 back bedrooms," I said, "but this is still my house. We'll discuss big decisions together." He said, "Of course, Mom, we're not trying to take over." Famous last words. The first couple of months were actually kind of nice. I loved waking up to the sound of cartoons and little feet, having people at the table again, sharing cooking duties with Megan. They did pitch in on utilities, and Brian mowed the lawn without being asked. The kids brought life into a house that had been quiet for too long. But slowly, the tone shifted. Brian started talking about investments and planning for the future. "We should think about putting the house in my name now," he'd say offhandedly while filling his plate. "Just so if something happens, it's easier. Everyone I know is getting their inheritance sorted early." "I'm not planning on going anywhere," I'd reply. "And I already have a will." "Wills get contested," he'd say. "Property taxes go up. Nursing homes cost a fortune. We need to be proactive." The first time he joked about me moving to an assisted living facility so the kids can have more space. I laughed it off. The second time, I didn't. "Brian, I'm not moving into a home," I said. "I'm perfectly capable. We'll cross that bridge when my doctor tells me I have to." "You're not getting any younger," he muttered. "I have arthritis in my knees and I get winded on stairs, but I'm hardly at death's door." Still, his comments kept coming. "I saw a nice senior complex with elevators," he'd muse. "Wouldn't it be nice not to worry about maintenance?" "You'd be safer somewhere with staff on call," Megan added once, not quite meeting my eyes. Kelsey, who lives out of state, heard about all this through our phone calls and was furious. "They're living rent-free in your house and trying to push you out of it?" she said. "That's messed up, Mom." "They're stressed," I said weakly. "Maybe they're just thinking out loud." Still, the pit in my stomach grew. One afternoon, I walked into my own living room to find Brian on the couch with a laptop, financial websites open. "What's all this?" I asked. "Oh, just running some numbers," he said. "If we refinance and pull some equity out, we could pay off my car, invest a chunk, maybe add on a master suite in the back." "We?" I repeated. "Refinance what?" "The house," he said, like it was obvious. "Mine well, yours now. But eventually mine. Losing my job put us behind. This would help everyone." I stared at him. "Brian, we are not refinancing my paid-off house to pay off your car," I said. "Absolutely not." He rolled his eyes. "Good grief, Mom, don't you trust me?" he said. "You're so emotional about money." "It took your father and me 30 years to own this place outright," I snapped. "I'm not handing the bank a reason to take it back." We argued. Voices rose. The kids came in asking why everyone was yelling. After that, Brian cooled it on the refinance talk for a while. But his attitude toward me changed. Small things started happening. He'd forget to give me the utility money we'd agreed on. Megan would rearrange my kitchen for efficiency without asking. Decisions about the kids were made without including me. I started to feel like a long-term guest in my own home. The final straw before Thanksgiving happened in October. I was cleaning out a drawer in the hallway cabinet and found a folder with copies of my house deed and tax statements. My name was on them as owner, of course. On top of the folder was a sticky note in Brian's handwriting. "Ask lawyer if Mom can transfer title now. Tax implications? That night, when he got home, I confronted him. "Why do you have my deed?" I asked, holding up the folder. He didn't even look guilty. "I made an appointment with a real estate attorney," he said, "just to get information. It makes sense to put the house in my name sooner rather than later. You'd still live here, obviously." "Obviously?" I repeated, because the post-it I saw sure sounded like you were planning things for me, not with me. "Mom, calm down," he said. "I'm trying to protect the asset. If you end up in a nursing home, Medicaid will eat this house. You raised me to be practical." "I raised you to be kind," I said. "Practical is not scheming to get your mother's house before she's even old enough for senior discounts at the movies." We didn't speak for 2 days after that. Kelsey, when she heard, didn't mince words. "You need your own lawyer," she said. "Not the family lawyer. One who only works for you. If Brian is asking about deeds behind your back, you can't assume he has your best interests at heart anymore." I hated that she might be right, but the thought of my name disappearing from my own property papers without my full understanding made my stomach hurt. So, quietly, I made an appointment with an elder law attorney downtown. I took my deed with me. He listened patiently as I explained. My widow status. Brian and Megan living with me. His comments about transferring title and protecting assets. Then he asked, "Do you want your son to own your house before you die?" "No," I said. "I want to stay here as long as I can. Then I want both my children to inherit equally." "Then do not sign anything transferring full title to him now," the lawyer said firmly. "If you want to, we can set up a trust with clear conditions. But from what you've told me, your son has already shown he prioritizes his financial convenience over your security." We drew up new documents. A living trust naming both kids as equal beneficiaries after my death. A clause that I retain full control and right to live in the house for life. Instructions that any attempt to coerce me into signing over property would result in disinheritance. He also drafted a simple letter politely declining any proposed early transfer and directing all such conversations through his office. I felt both guilty and strangely relieved. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, I had a quiet confidence under my anxiety. If Brian tried anything, I wasn't going to be blindsided. I just didn't expect him to try it in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. Thanksgiving has always been big in our family. Even when money was tight, Jack and I would find a way to put a turkey, mashed potatoes, and at least 2 pies on the table. Since he died, I've kept the tradition going, admittedly with more help from Costco and frozen rolls. This year, with Brian's crew living under my roof, we decided to invite a few extra relatives. My sister, her husband, and our longtime attorney friend, Mr. Jensen. He's been Uncle Dave to the kids forever, even though he's not actually related. When I told Brian I'd invited Dave, he looked tense. "Why is the lawyer coming?" he asked. "Because he's my friend," I said. "He's spent holidays with us for 20 years. Brian muttered something under his breath but dropped it. The day of, the house smelled like butter and sage. Megan and I navigated around each other in the kitchen. The kids ran between the living room and the backyard, hyped up on early Christmas cartoons. We all sat down around the table, me at one end, Brian at the other, Jensen off to my right. The usual clatter of cutlery and small talk filled the room. About halfway through the meal, just as I was passing the gravy, Brian cleared his throat. "Hey, Mom," he said. "There's something we need to take care of while everyone's here. It's important." My stomach did a slow, ominous roll. He reached under his chair and pulled out a manila envelope. "I talked to a real estate lawyer about this," he said. "It's pretty straightforward. It's basically just formalizing what we've all been talking about." Megan stared hard at her plate. Kelsey's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Brian slid the envelope down the table toward me. "You should read it," he said. "It's an agreement to transfer the house into my name now, with a life estate for you. You still get to live here, obviously, but it protects the property for the family. If you sign tonight, Jensen can witness it." All eyes swung to Jensen, who raised his eyebrows but kept his face neutral. "I didn't open the envelope, Brian," I said calmly. "You're trying to get me to sign over my house at Thanksgiving dinner?" He shrugged. "It's the only time we're all together," he said. "Might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's for your own good, Mom. You don't understand all the Medicaid stuff." Kelsey set her napkin down. "Or it's for your good," she said. "So you can use the house as collateral and not care what happens to Mom if something goes wrong." "That's not fair," Brian snapped. "I'm trying to make sure this doesn't get taken by the government. I thought we agreed." "We did not agree," I cut in. "You decided. There's a difference." His face reddened. "You're being paranoid," he said. "Everybody I know is doing this. Their parents are putting things in their names early. You're being stubborn and emotional." I could feel the room tensing, relatives shifting uncomfortably. Jensen quietly reached into his own briefcase and pulled out a white envelope with my name on it. "Actually," he said, mild as ever, "Ellen's already talked to me about this." Brian's head snapped toward him. "What?" he said. I finally picked up the manila envelope, held it for a moment. then slid it back across the table toward Brian without opening it. "I'm not signing anything you had drawn up without my input," I said. "And I'm certainly not doing it over turkey." Jensen cleared his throat. "I think this might be a good time for you to read this instead," he told Brian, handing him the white envelope. Brian looked at it suspiciously. "What is it?" he asked. "Updated instructions regarding the house and Ellen's estate," Jensen said. "Prepared at her request a few weeks ago." Brian ripped it open, eyes scanning the first page. His expression shifted from annoyed to stunned to furious. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "What does it say?" Kelsey asked. "It says," he spat, "that the house is now in a trust, and both of us inherit it equally after Mom dies, if we haven't tried to pressure her into transferring it early or otherwise interfere with her living here." He glared at me. "There's a clause," he added, voice tight, "that says any heir who tries to coerce you into signing over assets before your death can be removed from the trust entirely." Megan's fork clattered onto her plate. "You went behind my back to do this?" Brian asked me. I met his glare. "I went to protect myself after finding out you'd already gone behind my back with my deed and a post-it note," I said. "You showed me your intentions. I took steps to make sure I wouldn't end up homeless because my son decided he needed collateral." "That's not what this is about," he snapped. "I was trying to help you." Kelsey let out a short, humorless laugh. "Right," she said. "Help her into a one-bedroom senior studio while you play king of the castle. You stay out of this," Brian shot at her. "You don't live here. You don't know what it's like day to day." "I know that Mom cooks your meals, watches your kids, and pays half the grocery bill," she replied. "I know that you tried to spring legal documents on her at a family dinner. That tells me enough." The kids had gone quiet, sensing the tension. Grandma muttered, "Lord have mercy," under her breath. Brian rounded on Jensen. "You're supposed to be our family lawyer," he said. "Why would you help her cut me out like this?" "I'm Ellen's attorney," Jensen corrected calmly. "My obligation is to her wishes, not yours. She has the right to secure her housing and decide how her property is handled. So you're just going to let her make irrational decisions?" he said. "She's emotional. She's old." I let out a sharp breath. "I may be old enough for senior coffee discounts," I said, "but I'm not incompetent. I understood every word of those documents when I signed them. Didn't you assume I was competent enough to sign yours just now?" He sputtered. "Mom, this is insane," he said. "Do you have any idea how much I've done around here? The repairs? The yard? I've put in sweat equity. I deserve." "You deserve a thank you and maybe free leftovers," I interrupted. "You do not deserve my house just because you lived here for a while." I pushed my chair back and stood up, my knees protesting. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You, Megan, and the kids are welcome to stay here for now, as we originally agreed. As long as you pay your share of bills and treat this as my home. If you bring up me moving out, or signing anything over again, the agreement ends, and you have 60 days to find somewhere else to live." His mouth opened and closed like a fish. "You'd kick your own son out?" he asked, scandalized. "You tried to evict your own mother," I countered. "I'm simply returning the courtesy, with more notice and less theatrics." Aunt Joan snorted into her wine. For once, Brian had no quick comeback. Dinner resumed in awkward silence. Someone turned the football game up louder than necessary. The kids went back to their toys. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Kelsey knocked on my door. "You okay?" she asked. I sat on the edge of my bed, exhausted but oddly lighter. "I hate that it came to this," I said. "But I'm glad I knew what he was planning. If I just signed that paper because he shoved it at me in front of everyone, you'd be at their mercy," she finished. "You did the right thing, Mom." In the weeks since, Brian has been frosty. He says I humiliated him by having legal papers ready. I pointed out that announcing eviction plans at Thanksgiving wasn't exactly subtle on his part. We're still navigating what our relationship looks like now that the Bank of Mom is officially closed and the house is legally out of easy reach. But one thing is clear. He understands that I'm not as easy to push around as he thought. Watching his face go from smug to stunned when Jensen slid that envelope across the table might be one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Maybe that's petty. Or maybe it's just a tired old woman finally realizing that protecting herself isn't a betrayal, it's survival. So now I want to know. Was I wrong for going to a lawyer behind my son's back and locking my house into a trust after I realized he was trying to get me to sign it over, and for letting him find out about it at Thanksgiving when he tried to spring his own papers on me? Should I have trusted that he had my best interests at heart? Or did his attempt to evict me justify the way I handled it? Tell me what you think.